Before Bidet, and that's not a knife, there was a real survivor whose boat was capsized by a massive creature, forcing him to live in the wild for 56 days. That incredible true story is just one of the secrets behind Crocodile Dundee. We're about to reveal 20 insane facts you never knew about the film. From the jokes Hollywood didn't want Americans to see to the on-set romance that was more real than the crocodiles.
Absolutely. And I will see where he was attacked and how he survived.
Yes, I assure you, you're going to spend a few wonderful days here.
You might know the iconic lines, but you don't know the real story behind the film that took the world by storm and put Australia on the cinematic map. Crocodile Dundee wasn't just a movie, it was a global phenomenon that turned a Sydney Harbour bridge rigger into an international superstar and changed Australian cinema forever. We've dug deep to uncover the most surprising, weird, and fascinating facts about this 80s classic. So maybe don't grab a Foster's, because real Aussies don't really drink it. And let's get into it. The character of Mick Dundee feels like a legendary folk hero.
Michael J. Crocodile Dundee.
Yeah, never go out with us. If you do, you'll never come back. Right, Walt?
But he was heavily inspired by a real man named Rod Ansell. In 1977, Ansell's boat capsized in a remote river in the Northern Territory, leaving him stranded for a grueling 56 days. He survived with minimal supplies, hunting wild cattle and sleeping in trees to avoid crocodiles. His story of survival made headlines across the world and caught the attention of Paul Hogan. However, unlike the fictional Dundee, Ansell's life had a tragic end. He never saw a dime from the film's success and died in a police shootout in 1999. Before he was charming audiences in Mick Dundee, Paul Hogan had a much more rugged job. He worked as a rigger on the iconic Sydney Harbour Bridge, the very same bridge you see in the movie. He wasn't a painter, as is often misreported. He was one of the guys scaling the heights of Australia's most famous landmark. Hogan even joked that if he'd been a painter, he would have jumped off. This blue-collar background gave him that authentic, down-to-earth persona that made Dundee so beloved. That chemistry between Mick Dundee and American reporter Sue Charlton wasn't just good acting. A real-life romance blossomed between Paul Hogan and Linda Kozlowski during filming. At the time, Hogan was married, but the connection with Kozlowski was undeniable. They kept their relationships under wraps for a while, but eventually, Hogan divorced his first wife and married Kozlowski in 1990. They were together for 23 years and have a son.
What about you? Aren't you having any?
Me? Oh, well, you can live on it. But it tastes like shit.
Proving the film's love story continued long after the cameras stopped rolling. Filming in the Australian outback was no glamorous affair. The cast and crew were stationed in the remote Kakadu National Park, which in the 80s had almost no tourist infrastructure. With no hotels nearby, everyone stayed in run-down huts at an abandoned uranium mining camp. To keep spirits high, producer John Cornell made sure there was always plenty of beer on hand, fostering a true Aussie campfire atmosphere.
How did you get away?
I said Crocs don't like fresh meat. He wasn't trying to eat me on the spot. He just wanted to grab a hold of me and take me down for a death roll.
A death roll?
They even hired an armed guard to keep very real crocodiles from wandering onto the set. Hollywood executives didn't fully trust American audiences to get the film's Aussie slang and humor. Fearing jokes about galas and other local sayings would fly over their heads, Paramount Pictures created a different version for the US release. They trimmed the film, cutting out the slang to tighten the pace for American viewers. This means that for years, many fans outside of Australia were watching a version of the film with some of its original, local flavor scrubbed out. Crocodile Dundee was a massive gamble. Made on a shoestring budget of under $10 million, it was funded by a syndicate of private investors because Paul Hogan and his team wanted total creative control. The risk paid off spectacularly. The film grossed a staggering $328 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing film in the United States in 1986, beaten only by Top Gun. It shattered records in Australia, becoming the country's highest-grossing film of all time. Before Paramount Pictures picked up the film, Paul Hogan's business partner, John Cornell, shopped it around Hollywood. He screened it for executives at 20th Century Fox, who were famously unimpressed. As the story goes, the executive watched only 20 minutes of the movie before turning it down flat. Paramount then swooped in and bought the distribution rights. Cornell later said he enjoyed imagining the look on that Fox executive's face after the film became a global hit. One of the film's most memorable moments is the finale, where Mick tries to reach Sue in a packed New York subway station by walking across the heads and shoulders of commuters. This wasn't just some random comedic idea. It was inspired by the real-life behavior of Australian sheepdogs, who are known to climb and walk over the backs of densely packed sheep to get from one side of the herd to the other. It's a brilliant, subtle nod to the character's rural roots, even in the heart of the city.
Tell her, I'll tell him myself I'm coming through. He's coming through! He's coming through!
The Aboriginal dance scene features the legendary actor and dancer David Goldplil, who played Mick's friend Nevil Bell.
And what are you doing wandering around out here in the scrub, Nev?
I'm on my way to Corroboree over at the Java. It's bloody drag, but still, my dad get angry if I don't show up.
Goldplil, who was raised in a traditional lifestyle in Arnhem Land, was one of Australia's most acclaimed tribal dancers and a trailblazer for Indigenous representation in Australian film. For Crocodile Dundee, he brought that authenticity to the screen by choreographing the traditional dance sequence himself, sharing a piece of his rich cultural heritage with the world. The scene where Mick calmly hypnotizes a massive water buffalo is a fan favorite. While the crocodile that attacked Sue was a $45,000 mechanical prop, the water buffalo was very real, and according to Paul Hogan, it was one of the most difficult animals to work with on set. Hogan said the scene took an entire day to shoot because if a 2,000-pound buffalo doesn't want to do something, you really can't make it. The stubborn animal, named Charlie, eventually became a bit of a local celebrity after his star turn. Before Crocodile Dundee, Kakadu National Park was a remote, rugged area known more for uranium mining than tourism. The film showcased its stunning landscapes to a global audience for the first time. After the movie's release, tourism exploded. The park became so famous that operators began offering Crocodile Dundee-themed tours, and today you can even stay at the Kakadu Crocodile Hotel, which is shaped like a giant croc. The fish-out-of-water comedy wasn't just on screen. When Paul Hogan first visited New York City to get a feel for the location, he acted a bit like his character. He genuinely walked around Manhattan greeting strangers with a friendly good day.
G'day. Mick Dundee from Australia. How are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
I think good.
This real-life experience helped shape the character's charming naivety and his approach to the bewildered, fast-paced city dwellers he meets in the film. It was part of Hogan's process to understand what it would really be like for an outback bushman in the Big Apple. It's hard to overstate just how massive Crocodile Dundee was. It wasn't just a hit in Australia and the United States, it dominated box offices in places where Australian films had previously made little impact. It topped the charts for weeks in Paris, Rome, and Stockholm, turning Paul Hogan into a truly global star. In the UK, its Christmas Day broadcast in 1989 became the most viewed program of the day, with an audience of nearly 22 million people. The "That's not a knife" scene is easily one of the most quoted movie lines of the 80s. The iconic Bowie knife Mick wields wasn't some off-the-shelf prop. It was custom-made for the film by a knife maker named John Bowring. The knife's impressive size and design were crucial for the scene's comedic punchline, perfectly symbolizing Mick's outback readiness compared to the city's petty threats. The prop became so famous it's been replicated and sold as a collector's item for decades. Paul Hogan wasn't just the star, he was the driving force behind the entire project.
Just around the corner. I have a little place where I live all by my lonesome.
Not now.
Most of the time, that is.
Oh.
He conceived the film's core idea after a trip to New York, wondering what would happen if a bushman from the Northern Territory was dropped into the city. He then co-wrote the screenplay with his collaborators from his TV sketch comedy series. Hogan and his producer were so invested that they put up their own money and raised the rest from private investors to ensure they could make the exact movie they wanted, free from studio interference. While the fish-out-of-water comedy trope wasn't new, Crocodile Dundee perfected it with a unique double structure. First, Sue is the one out of her element in the Australian outback, completely reliant on Mick's expertise. Then, the roles are reversed when Mick, the ultimate frontiersman, becomes the one lost and bewildered in the concrete jungle of New York City. This dual perspective gave the film a fresh dynamic and became a template that countless comedies would try to replicate for years to come. The Walkabout Creek pub, that classic Aussie pub in the film, is a real place. Sort of. The building used for filming was originally called the Federal Hotel in the small town of McKinley, Queensland. After the movie became a massive hit, the owners officially changed the name to the Walkabout Creek Hotel to capitalize on its newfound fame. The pub has embraced its celebrity, housing memorabilia from the film and becoming a must-visit destination for die-hard fans. The film is filled with characters who have classic, quirky Australian nicknames like Nugget and Donk. These weren't just made up for the script, they were inspired by the real, often strange nicknames given to people in the Australian bush. These names added a layer of authenticity and charm to the outback scenes. One common Aussie nickname that didn't make the final cut was Bluey, a popular and ironic moniker often given to people with red hair. One of the film's funniest gags is Mick's confusion over the bidet in his fancy New York hotel room. This scene was directly inspired by the real-life experience of Rod Ansel, the man who inspired the movie. When Ansel was flown to Sydney for an interview, he was put up in a 5-star hotel and was reportedly baffled by the bidet. He also chose to sleep in his sleeping bag on the floor instead of the bed. These true-to-life quirks were woven directly into Mick Dundee's character. The success of Crocodile Dundee made Paul Hogan one of the most sought-after comedic actors in Hollywood. Legend has it that he was offered the lead role in the 1990 blockbuster Ghost, which would have seen him star opposite Demi Moore. Hogan reportedly turned it down, a decision he was said to have later regretted, as the role went to Patrick Swayze and the film became a massive hit. While it's never been officially confirmed, it remains one of Hollywood's biggest what-if casting stories.
Hey, listen, Rosita, I was only being friendly. You know, I didn't mean,
Your towel, Senor Me.
And there you have it. 20 facts that prove there was so much more to Crocodile Dundee than just a big knife and a charming smile. It was a film born from a wild true story, made with passion by a small, dedicated crew, and it ended up conquering the world. What's your favorite Crocodile Dundee moment? Did you know about the real-life survivor Rod Ansel? Let us know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Watch Riot for more behind-the-scenes stories from your favorite movies.